Call the commission, please.
Chairman Johnston.
Here.
Vice Chairwoman East.
Here.
Commissioner Allenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Cavilla. Commissioner Hubbs.
Here.
Commissioner Keel.
Here.
Commissioner McNinch.
Here.
Commissioner Valentine.
Here. And Commissioner Cavilla is tending to a tragic family matter today, and he let us know that in advance. With the county advisory boards who are in attendance, please announce their presence.
Paul Dixon Park, Jim Cooney, Elko, Joe Krim, Pershing, Steve Robinson, Washoe, Rob Beamer, Harrison City, Rob Jacobson, Lyon, Walt Mandeville, Lyon.
Thank you all. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 13, approval of agenda. Chairman Brad Johnston for possible action. The commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. One comment on the agenda is that I believe the conservation partner spotlight agenda item 22C is being removed. We do not have that today. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, it is an action item. Any public comment on the agenda? Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or a motion. Commissioner McNinch.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the note regarding agenda item 22C.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner McNinch, seconded by Commissioner Valentine, to approve the agenda as presented with the exception removing agenda item 22C. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0 with Commissioner Cavilla absent. With that, we can move on to agenda item 14. Member items, announcements, and correspondence. Chairman Brad Johnston, informational. Commissioners may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Commissioners may provide hard copies of their correspondence for the written record. Correspondence sent or received by Secretary Walsley may also be discussed. I did receive 3 emails last night on a specific agenda item, which is Mr. Zenza's petition. I forwarded that to the department early this morning. I believe all the other commissioners were copied on those. Other than that, I don't have anything. Any other member items? Secretary Walsley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All of the correspondence the department has received has been forwarded to the commission. Majority of that was pertaining to the Zen's petition and Bobcat seasons. I would, however, like to take advantage of this particular agenda item to call attention to a couple of members of the commission. We have a regular cycle at this point in time where each June with the 9-member commission there are 3 commission appointments that reach their term. We know that there are 2 of the 3 of you that are at your second term and are going to be stepping off the commission here in literally just a matter of days. So we wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to acknowledge you and thank you. And I just like to say it's always really bittersweet. The bitter part is that we're losing members of the commission that in your cases each of you have been here for 6 years. The sweet part is that it actually provides us an opportunity to divert a little bit from some of the daily business and the agenda, just to acknowledge some of the passion and dedication around this commission. So when you look at the commission model, it's all about diversity. There's strength in diversity, and you have 9 members. When you look at the statute and the statutory requirements for commission members, it's fairly complicated. It would be really easy just to look at that at face value. The numbers representing farming, ranching, conservation, general public, sportsmen, urban versus rural, counties of populations. It's fairly complicated, but when you look at how this commission functions and you look at the diversity, I mean, we could start one end of this table and talk about, yesterday Commissioner Barnes acknowledged his bias in spending money for seed, protect rangelands. Commissioner McNitch with background in biology and health, representing conservation. Commissioner East talked about her background, her professional background, public relations, when we're talking about marketing the alternate tag program. Commissioner Almberg, rural sportsman with construction background and the work that he's done for the department, for conservation and Cave Lake Dam. Commissioner Hubbs, representing the general public, always asking those hard questions, those challenging questions. Commissioner Keel, familiarity with water, some of the Pershing County, the farming rep. Each one of you brings a unique skill set, a unique background that make the commission as a whole better. So I think the one constant amongst the 9 positions and presently the 9 members is that passion. And Commissioner Valentine and Chairman Johnston, the two of you and your passion are certainly no exception. I think it's partly attributable to the passion and the model that eventually led to this commission being selected as the Commission of the Year in I believe it was 2017 for the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies under then Chairman Drew's leadership. So this commission proactively addressed a suite of challenging and controversial issues. I've heard leadership defined as disappointing people at a rate they can absorb. I've also heard that somebody referred to win-win scenarios as a scenario with no meaningful outcome. So I know those are two relevant ways to characterize some of the challenges and some of the issues that this commission has undertaken. When we look at individual commissioners, historically, they've been defined by a particular agenda or a pet issue. But with respect to Commissioner Valentine and Chairman Johnston, I think you guys are defined by doing right by sportsmen and right by the future of conservation and hunting and fishing. And Commissioner Valentine, there's 2 particular events that stick in my mind when I think about your tenure. The first one is a little bit humorous, where somewhere along the way, some well-intentioned staff thought it was a good idea to give commissioners, traveling commissioners, some of our vehicles that maybe weren't in the greatest state of repair. And so Commissioner Valentine isn't exactly a short person, but somehow he got a vehicle that the seat wouldn't adjust and the door wouldn't open, and he's in there with his knees up by his ears, and he was using that vehicle for quite some time and didn't say a word. And we were taking him to the airport to get the vehicle back, and said, can I get your stuff? Oh yeah, that door doesn't open. Well, can we scoot that seat back? No, it doesn't work. And he never said a word, and it just. We changed it after we learned that. We have a different model now. But he never said a word. And then there was a second issue where there was a family illness. And it was kind of an urgent situation, and Commissioner Valentine was really torn in being there for his mom versus his commission duties. And for most of us, I think it would be a pretty easy decision, but to see how passionate he was and how serious he takes his role as a commissioner really defined, who he was, who he is, what he's done, and that passion and seriousness with which he's taken on his roles here. I wrote just a couple words that I think really capture Commissioner Valentine and in my observation and his duties in the last 6 years as a commissioner: passionate, purposeful, patient, soft-spoken, respectful, and always the consummate professional in representing wildlife, the sportsmen. He's always stood in his purpose, and we saw as recently as yesterday some of the emotion and passion when he was referencing where we are with some of the ethics and some of the ethical challenges and in and around hunting. And so I have a plaque and a picture that I'd like to give to you You can just sit tight. I'll bring it up there. It's all in sterilized containers. I will, however, read the plaque and also the inscription on the photo. The plaque proudly recognizes and honors Commissioner Paul Valentine in appreciation of your many years of dedicated service to the wildlife resources and the sportsmen of the state of Nevada, July 1, 2014 through June 30, 2020. Presented to Paul Valentine, June 27, 2020. This has a couple photos and also a plaque on here. Has the same inscription as the one I just read, and these photos won't be a mystery to Commissioner Valentine.
I'm going to try not to cry. My wife warned me. She said, do not make a fool of yourself and blubber. But at my age, it's hard. Tony, thank you so much for those kind words. They appreciate a lot to me. Serving on this commission has been a true privilege and an honor. I am going to miss the camaraderie of all my commissioners. All of the department, the cabs, the sacrifices that everybody makes in the process of this job. So I think that's all I'm going to say, Brad, at this particular point in time. And thank you all so very much. I'd like to recognize my wife, Virginia. Jenny, would you stand up? She's been a major support for me in this particular job. So. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Valentine. I'd like to say just a few words about Chairman Johnston, AKA Mary Poppins. That was I just want to share the first encounter I had with Chairman Johnston was shortly after my appointment as director, just over 7 years ago. The Valley Road office was being renovated or asbestos abatement, if you want to call that a renovation. And we were using the Washoe County or City of Reno. We were downtown, and there were some fairly controversial issues on the commission agenda. Chairman Johnston came in, I believe, representing either Lyon County CAB, and I hadn't met him. I didn't know who he was, but he did an outstanding job of representing the issue. Clearly articulate and intelligent. We were in the middle of a legislative session at the time, and I thought to myself, wow, that's somebody that could really speak, for wildlife in a way that could make a difference. And I went over and sat down next to him and introduced myself and encouraged him to speak for wildlife on a more frequent basis. Little did I know at that time that he would end up on the commission, or let alone being our chairman. He has a regular habit of stealing my thunder, but I think I've done the same a time or two. Really enjoyed some of the fun giving him a hard time about Alabama's wins and losses. He's done an excellent job in leading meetings, in particularly with appeals and the appeals process, deciphering statutes, and distilling complicated issues down to some very basic and practical perspectives, which was on full display yesterday when he took a fairly complicated issue and distilled it down to, if you're calling the game warden to find out where that line is, maybe you should question your own ethics. So I can't thank you enough for the way that you represented the commission and the department, willingness to take on challenging issues for the betterment of hunting and fishing. And I know we have a similar plaque for you and some photos as well. And I know that I trust that they'll hang with pride and in a highly visible place.
Take a drink of water first. I'm somebody born and raised in Southwest Ohio who came to Nevada after law school because a federal judge decided to give me an opportunity to clerk here in Nevada, and I fell in love with the state, but Nevada wasn't really consistent with my career path at the time, and that resulted in 4 years of living in New York City, of all places. But there's no place I'd rather be than right here in Arrington, Nevada, with my wife, Stephanie, and my 3 boys. And I love the fact that they're here to share this with me today. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years. Michael had just been born when I was appointed to the commission. Jax was 4, and now he's 10, and worked hard earlier this year to do his hunter's education because he wants to do some of the things I love to do. AJ's now 12 and went into the big game draw for the first time this year and drew that Area 7 junior deer tag, and I think I'm more excited than he is. But people ask me, the job of the commission's thankless at times, takes you away from your family, why do it? And you don't have to look any further than those 3 boys to know why I wanted to serve on this commission. And I feel that not just those 3, but the next generation and the generations to come. And I like to think that over the last 6 years we have done things for them, because it wasn't about me or the 9 of us that sit up here. This has been one of the most rewarding things in my professional life. And the reason being is past commissioners that I've served with, the current commissioners I've served with, members of the public, CAB members, the NDOW staff, has made this just a tremendous experience. I thank you all for it very, very much. I'm going to miss the camaraderie too. I can't tell you what it means to me, Grant and Pete, that you were here last night. Thank you for making the trip. I look at this picture from my sheep hunt a couple years ago, and Paul was there, Jack was there, 2 people who would have never been on that trip, but for this commission. And so I want to thank everybody for that. And certainly last, but definitely not least, I want to thank my wife Stephanie Being married to me, as some of you might imagine, is not the easiest of tasks. And somehow I was blessed to meet Stephanie and my life came together. And she has supported me through all this. And I want to thank her, and I love you. And I just want to thank everybody for this awesome opportunity that I had over the last 6 years to serve my home state of Nevada, its wildlife, its people. That's what makes Nevada great and why I chose it for my home. It's a great state with great people, and I'm very proud to have served on this commission with all of you and developed the friendships that I have that I know will last a lifetime. And thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, then I'll close. I use a lot of sports quotes and analogies, and one that I think is applicable here. You know, we're told that we don't remember, you know, when we participate in sports as kids, and we don't remember the outcome of the individual contest, but we remember how we felt. We remember how our coaches make us feel. And similarly, with all the issues that this commission takes on, we don't remember the votes. We don't look at commissioners where they were on issues. We don't, you know, with the exception maybe of the 8 to Drew, only because his name's associated with it. But we know how we feel. We know how the experiences make us feel. And I can tell you that I've had a difficult or challenging time concealing some of my pleasure or grins with some of the I don't know if I should admit this, but some of the appeals processes and with some of your legal expertise and interpretation and application, and it isn't not so much even driven by the outcome that has made me smirk, but just your familiarity with process and statutes, and we'll certainly miss that. I would just like to say that we know how you two in particular made us feel about conservation, made us feel about the future of hunting and fishing. We're gonna miss you, and I'm proud to call you both friends. So thank you very much for your service.
Okay, any other member items or announcements under this agenda item? Or if there are people who would like to say something, come up if you'd like.
I told him. You didn't ask.
Yeah, I got to turn that.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
My view of things are in life is that the Lord has blessed each and every one of us with different talents and different skills and abilities. And looking at this commission, that comes to light. And each and every one of you guys have your niche or your spot and contribution to the whole process. Commissioner Valentine, if there's a word that I can use that describes you and my acquaintance with you on this board, that word is genuine. I was always certain that any comment, Director Wasley used the word soft-spoken, and I think that appropriately fits. However, being soft-spoken doesn't mean that we didn't know what you were thinking. You were always very clear as to what your opinion was, and I believe that a lot of times it's not how much a person speaks, it's what they say when they do speak. And just from your acceptance just a little while ago, you kind of a man of not too many words, but what you said was the real deal, and I appreciate that, and I'm happy to have been to serve on this board with you. Brad, there are people, I believe, in this world that are comfortable with public speaking and are very adept at doing that, but they may not have the speaking voice to convey their message quite as well. There are others that have an excellent speaking voice, but they're not comfortable with using that voice a lot of times when it would be a benefit. Very rarely do you find a person that has it all. And I truly mean that. You've got a way that always amazed me of conveying your message in a concise, straight to the point approach, and you had the speaking voice to go with it, so that when Brad Johnston spoke, you had to listen to it, because you could tell it was from your heart, and you've been always true to your beliefs, honest in your dealings, and dedicated to your mission. And to the rest of you commissioners, I'm kind of simple-minded, and I look at things in a simple way, but the best way I can describe what you guys are losing today is you're losing the master link to the chain with Brad, and with Paul, maybe the balanced wheel weight. Paul, in my opinion, you're the guy that has kept this commission running straight and true. And you guys are going to be faced with having to fill in the gaps from this void. But I trust that you guys will. I think this is an excellent commission, a diverse commission. You have the support of the department. I'm a full believer in the quality and the leadership of the Department of Wildlife. You guys have got a good thing going here. Just keep it up, and I can say that it's a true honor for me to have served with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, guys. Been a while, and I missed all of you. Some new faces that I've also met, and you guys have done a great job. And always miss coming to the meetings and being in the know and what was happening. And but I always felt confident that every one of you could do a good job and have carried on and kept things running smooth. And I can't even imagine what it's been like the last couple of months, trying to work under the conditions that you have, and I'm sure with leadership of Chairman Johnston and the experience of the commission, it's been tough, but you made it go. And but I wanted to definitely come up here and talk to you guys and say thank you for continuing on and the dedication, and to the families, Stephanie and the kids, and Virginia. It was nice to finally met the spouses that we talk about, and we spend a lot of time together as a commission, and you talk about your spouse and your families, and it's nice to put a face with the families, and that kind of makes you realize how much time as a commissioner you dedicate to the job that you're not with your families. And you'll realize even more once you're done how much time that actually involved. But I definitely want to thank you both for your service and the the leadership. From my time on the commission, I know Brad, we never had to wonder where Brad stood. That's for sure. And to lean on him for, as Director Wasley spoke to on the appeals processes and some of those things. I mean, there were many times that I was like, take the wheel on this one. That's your wheelhouse, and I'm sure that will be missed. But there's more than enough of you, I'm sure, can carry the torch and continue on. And that was one of my things that I missed the most, was the friendships that I built through the commission and the time spent. And but I still know that I can probably call any one of you and have a conversation, and it'd probably be just like yesterday that we were talking, and that's important to me. And I wish I'd have been able to spend a little time with you on your sheep hunt, but we had other issues going on at that time and didn't make it go. But I do know that it's kind of the same thing with mine. A lot of the people that were with me were as a result of the commission and friendships that I made and still carry to this day. And it's a good thing, and carry on. And this is kind of a different situation, the public speaking thing here that I haven't been a part of for a couple of years, but I do miss all you guys, and I appreciate the time involved and the effort put forward. And just want to thank you both for your time, and I'm sure we will be still talking down the road, because friendships made here are lifetime friendships that I cherish. So, and I wouldn't miss being here for any of you guys. So I'm sure we'll have multiple other term when you guys are done, and we'll have another barbecue. And that was great. I want to thank you guys for doing that last night. It was nice to be able to talk and see friends that you haven't seen in a while. And I know every time we get together, we talk about having a reunion barbecue or something, so that we can all get together and maybe have some time to spend and chat and not be talking about wildlife. I mean, that's a great thing, because we're always going to talk about that, but it'd be nice to be out of the setting of and be able to spend some time like that. But definitely thanks again, and it was a great, I mean, I think I was on the commission with each of you for probably 4 years. I think it was, 4 years. Time flies, it's been 2 years. And,
Yeah.
it was a great time, and can always rely on you guys to step up. And Director Bosley said everyone has their different backgrounds and specialties, and you could always look towards someone on the commission for insight into the current topic. And I think that's about all I've got. I just wanted to thank you guys again, and
Thank you.
enjoy.
Thanks, Grant.
I think I'm going to jump in now. I had the opportunity to know both of you prior to commission time, and I was lucky enough to spend times in camp trailers and wall tents with both of you, and those are special times. And if you ask Pete and Grant, you two aren't escaping me. You're still going to have to deal with me, even though you're going off the commission. You're still going to be in my phone log and somebody I call on a regular basis, because I trust both your opinions on a lot of things, and I'll be calling asking for advice, and I'm sure you will both share your advice with me, and I appreciate that. Had the opportunity to meet Paul for the first time through a mutual friend on a special trip, and developed a friendship right off the get-go, and I appreciate that. And if I could sum Paul up in one word, it's a gentleman. He truly is a gentleman, and I respect that, and I try to learn from that, because your approach is fantastic, and I appreciate it. So it's something I value, your friendship, and I see you as a role model. Brad, a lot of people see him as fearless, the way he approaches everything, but I did have the opportunity to find Brad's fear. I stood over the Colorado River on the new bridge looking at the dam, and I found his fear,
I couldn't even get him away from the furthest wall he could stand to take a picture of the dam so he could send it to his folks. He was like a little kid out there just terrified of that. I never knew Brad had fear until you put him 700 feet over the Colorado River. I found his fear. So appreciate you both. Gonna miss you both, but like I said, you're not really getting away from me. So appreciate all you've done. You've done it well. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Virginia, if you think that he has trouble, yeah, I'm not always, I don't always hold it together very well. So he and I are not always a good pair that way, I guess. So I just wanted to say, you know, how much I appreciate you guys. These friendships are real. They really are. And getting to meet your family, Brad, I hadn't met him. I've seen Michael on video when we've talked about it. And meeting your wives in Virginia and spending a few minutes with them the other night, I really get to see where you guys are balanced and where you get that other side. And you know, it was really nice getting to talk with you guys and seeing what's behind these two, because when you're here, you guys don't have an easy job. I mean, you know, that once in a while somebody will approach me and say, well, it's kind of hard to be out on your own, and I've never really felt that way, because I look at what you guys have dealt with and what you guys, you're oftentimes kind of thought of as a block. You know, the sportsmen are always a block. You guys have never allowed that to happen, and you know, you have your own thought processes, you have your own concerns, and coming from my position, I can tell you I can't tell you how much I respect that, because it's never appeared that way to me. I can tell you guys always seem, we talk about 8 to Drew, well, there's been a few all to Pauls too. And, you know, so I appreciate that, because what it tells me is that there's no agenda, there's no movement, there's just people with interests trying to do the right thing, and they're doing the right thing based on what they believe is the right thing. And for me, I respect that greatly. And you know, you guys have allowed yourselves to talk about difficult things. You've allowed yourselves to go into those arenas and even make difficult decisions that you may not necessarily like individually, but you see a greater good. That's hard, and it's difficult, and I get that, and you guys have allowed yourselves to do that, and it's admirable. The other thing is that I really appreciate you guys have both been able to see certain parts of my life, my family, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. Both of you, different ways. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Commissioner Barnes.
Well, I don't know what to say, to be perfectly honest. I had a lot of windshield time coming down, and so I thought, well, I wanted to put something together. I just couldn't do it. The emotion that I feel pretty much describes how I feel about you guys and what I thought you brought to this commission. Paul, I always appreciated hearing what you had to say about a certain issue, whether we agreed or not. I always appreciated what you brought and valued your opinion. I think Jack described the one word that I was going to say about you, and that was gentleman. But I don't think one word describes you. I'm going to add one to it, and I'm going to put humble in front of gentleman, because I think you are truly a humble gentleman. And Brad, Pete pretty much described you too. I appreciate so much the knowledge and skill that you brought to this commission, and your ability to communicate how you felt, and really how this commission felt on certain issues. And you're going to be hard to replace. Remember when I came on the commission, you came up to me and you said, you know, Pete and I used to go out and have a beer before these meetings. Said, you be that one, you come have a beer with me too. And I have to tell you, I always enjoyed going out and having a beer with you. So once again, I appreciate everything that you did, and I appreciate both of you. And you're my friends, and you're always welcome in Jigs. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, I'm going to keep mine short because I will cry. I'm already in tears here. When I came on the commission, my first meeting actually, and Tony kind of referenced the appeals, and they're hard, and sometimes they're very complicated, and they involve a lot of legal ease and legal conversation. And the first meeting I had, Brad took over for Grant and handled that appeal, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is what we get to do. My head was spinning, but I've since learned a whole lot more about our meetings and the two guys sitting next to me, and I have to thank you for your confidence in me and your leadership and your knowledge, and the camaraderie and your thoughtfulness of approaching every agenda item that we have, but also helping guide us new people through the process. And I sat as the legislative chair, and I had been to the legislature 2 or 3 times in my career, but never as representing something so important. And so I really appreciate all of it. I'm going to miss you guys greatly, but as everyone else has said, these are friendships that last for a lifetime, and I know that. I've called on Grant. I call on people on this commission when I don't know where to go on an issue, and you always steer me in the direction that you think I should, or you give me advice on where I should steer myself. I should say that. So I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, wait, no. I do have a story about Caliente. Because I don't want you to tell it. Caliente was one of my favorite meetings. It was a year ago. And we, the three of us, Paul and Brad and I, actually drove around quite a bit on our field trip together. And I really, really enjoyed that time together. But I got up one morning in Caliente and there was no hairdryer in my room. And I thought, gosh, there's no hairdryer. What am I going to do? So I asked Brad, did you have a hairdryer in your room? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He goes, you're asking me if there's a hairdryer in my room? I thought they just forgot to put a hairdryer in my room. But he apparently was offended and hurt by my comment.
Hurt. I'm thin-skinned. So.
I'm gonna leave us on that. Thank you guys so very much.
Thank you, Tiffany.
I want to thank you guys both from the bottom of my heart. It's really hard, as everybody said. It's really hard to, especially for me. I'm no different than most of us here. It's hard to express ourselves. But you guys have been accurately described. Paul, I'll never forget a comment you looked at me, and you know, I'll just never forget it. He says, you know, the high road. And the high road is exactly Paul. It describes him. It's how he's conducted himself entirely. A humble gentleman. All of that is spot on. Sometimes you throw mud on a wall and it sticks. Sometimes you don't. I have nicknames for a lot of people, but Mary Poppins won't ever stick to my mind when it comes to describing B-Rad. You always know what is on his mind. He often steals your thunder. He's there. He's just been a fearless leader, and thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for the family, the sacrifices that they've given, and it's you know it's a ton, and I think we all recognize it is. And so thank you for coming out too. It was very nice and hosting us. It was great. Both of you. It's great. Thank you.
I just want to obviously thank you both as well. I've learned a lot from both of you. One of the things that always has stuck out in my mind with Paul was that he has a deep admiration for his daughter, his younger daughter. And sometimes this is a very male-dominated atmosphere, and to see a kind, gentle soul who's so schooled in his pastimes take time to talk to me about his daughter and taking her hunting and training her and knowing that she was very, very important to him, and that this pastime and recreational aspect of our wildlife was very important to him was always very touching to me. And Paul is truly a gentleman. I remember many times being new to the commission and him making sure I had a ride to my car, or when I lost my purse. He was by my side until things were resolved, and I really, really appreciated that as a newbie on the commission. In terms of Brad was very challenging. I think it's because I'm an attorney as well, and I see his spice and dice. And he was really heavy when I first came on, but Brad really kind of woke me to many issues, let me understand maybe more from a sportsman's perspective what's important to them and what's important to their families. But also knowing that at the end of the day, Brad is very concerned about wildlife and conservation. One of my proudest moments with Brad was when he helped our reptiles in southern Nevada. And I knew that vote had to come from Brad. I was like, it has to come because they have to buy into this. And he understood what was going on and saw that it was maybe, not the best for our state, and took action. And I was very, very proud of our commission that day. And I just want to let you both know that I towed my first RV to come down here and be with Brad in his hometown, or his family town, and to be with Paul, and learned, and thank you for NDOW. I don't think I would be alive today if not for them. My tarp has blown up over my RV. I didn't know how to operate a bunch of things, but I did it because I respect you, and I want to be with you both here on your last day on the commission, and I really appreciate your gentleness and your passion for what we do, and I'm going to miss you both.
Yeah, I think for the short time that I've been on the commission, the one word that really rang true that Director Walsley talked about was leadership. And for me, you guys have been excellent leaders. You've taken me in, really helped me learning this process. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Okay, with that, I think we can conclude that agenda item. I just want to thank everybody again. And something I forgot to mention, I want to thank Grant and Jeremy for setting the example for me to follow. And Jack, too, when I started attending commission meetings, setting the example to follow from this chair and running the meetings. I appreciate that. And in any event, I think what I'd like to do, if it's acceptable to everybody, if there's no more member item announcements, I'd like to just call for a short break. I know some people may want to leave, not to single him out, but 10-year-old there looks like he's about ready to fall asleep, and I want to say goodbye to him before he departs. So let's take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll resume.